The News 4 Rundown starts now.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the News 4 Rundown. I'm Sean Yancey. It is Thursday, August 27th. Here's a look at some of the stories we're following for you tonight. We're under a severe thunderstorm watch until 10 o'clock. Storm Team 4 Chief Meteorologist Doug Kammerer is tracking the areas facing the biggest threats from flash flooding. Plus, deliberations are now underway in the Lindsay Clancy trial. A doctor will join us live to discuss the closing arguments about maternal mental health. And Janeese Lewis George, the Democratic nominee for D.C. mayor, sat down with News 4's Mark Segraves. Hear what she said about taking on President Trump's policies. We begin tonight in weather alert mode. It was hot and humid across the region. Then some severe storms started moving through. Right now, some of you are seeing a tremendous amount of rain and lightning, but the severe weather hasn't quite reached the D.C. area just yet. Storm Team 4 Chief Meteorologist Doug Kammerer is tracking the latest on this, so we could see some flash flooding out there today?
Yeah, we've already seen it. Martinsburg, we had numerous water rescues. The area around Martinsburg, water rescues, half-dollar-size hail, trees into houses, a house set on fire by lightning.
Wow.
I mean, that area got hit very hard. That same storm now moving through parts of Frederick County and Montgomery County. Yes, we have not seen anything around the district just yet, and we might, but we have had clouds throughout much of the afternoon, so we might not see anything here. I'm wondering if these are going to continue on a line. I am watching more storms develop to the south of this line out there right now. So let's time this out, show you what's happening. First of all, everybody in the pink under a severe thunderstorm watch until 10 o'clock. Now, notice Fredericksburg doesn't include areas like Spotsylvania County, but there are some strong storms around Charlottesville that are moving that way. But let's show you the strongest storm. This storm moving from areas around Martinsburg through Frederick County, now into northern Montgomery County, around areas like Mount Airy and Damascus, just to the north of Gaithersburg, including areas around Clarksburg. Very heavy rain, a lot of lightning and strong winds. Severe thunderstorm warning for this area going until 7:45. So for about another 15 minutes or so as it moves down to the south and east. But again, look at down here, starting to see some showers and storms develop farther south of this line. So we'll be watching out for that. Back towards Martinsburg, as I mentioned, a flash flood warning continues for Martinsburg. I was looking at some of the radar estimates of nearly 5 inches of rain that have fallen there. Remember, turn around, don't drown. Please do not cross any flooded roadways. Back farther to the west, back into parts of Hampshire County, West Virginia, around Paw Paw, right outside of Winchester and towards Frederick County. Also seeing some strong storms here that continue to rumble on through. And most of the region here, from us all the way up towards New York, under a severe thunderstorm watch. We'll continue to keep you posted on what to expect. I'll talk about the 10-day forecast, which includes a few more chances of showers, but also some pretty intense heat coming up as well.
All right, we will see you then. Thank you, Doug. Now to a case that has riveted the nation. Jury deliberations are now underway in the murder trial of Lindsay Clancy. The Massachusetts mother killed her 3 young children in 2023 before she tried to kill herself. The 5-week trial has centered largely on Clancy's mental state at the time. During closing arguments today, Clancy's defense team argued she was experiencing postpartum psychosis and did not receive the care she needed. The prosecutor argued she understood right from wrong and made a choice.
Going to Rhode Island, being told, no, we can't help you. Calling a suicide hotline, we can't help you. Calling another suicide hotline, we can't help you. My God, what does she have to do? She was reaching out for help, and she was not getting it.
Their mom is the one that's hurting them. Their mom is the one that's killing them. That's extreme atrocity and cruelty.
Beyond the courtroom, this case has sparked a much larger conversation about the realities of life after childbirth and whether our healthcare system is doing enough to support mothers. Dr. Sarah Orrick, reproductive psychiatrist and president and co-founder of Mavita Health, joins us live. Sarah, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
As you watch the trial today, I'm curious what stood out to you about the way both sides portrayed Clancy's mental health.
I think the defense really made a great narrative on really how the state of Massachusetts and I think America failed Lindsay in terms of the health care. She was desperate to be admitted. She was desperately calling hotlines and still did not receive the care that she should have, the evidence-based care for postpartum psychosis. I like to remind people that postpartum psychosis is treatable, that most of the patients, every patient I've had with postpartum psychosis gets better. 98% get better if they are diagnosed and treated appropriately, and a very, very small percentage go on to hurt themselves or their children. So this is, I think, really an indictment on the healthcare system in America and women's mental health in general. In terms of the prosecution, they laid out, I think, a lot of stigma and misinformation about mental health. People can look absolutely fine and be suffering. People can function. They can go to a museum and not appear to be ill, but they are.
Let me ask you, in this particular situation, we heard her lawyer argue or talk about the fact that she had reached out many times but didn't receive that help. If there is someone who's watching right now or knows of anything like this, if you reach out and you don't get the help, what are you supposed to do?
This is where I think we're all lost, right? If you go to the emergency room, if you call the hotline, if you ask to be admitted, how come we're not? This is a bigger issue. This is not just those healthcare providers. The healthcare providers are also part of a system that is failing. Insurance companies often dictate how long we can see a patient, whether a patient can be admitted or not to a psychiatric unit. So I think it's a whole system issue that really needs to be looked at. But also, this is not a woman's problem. This is a family's issue. It's important for partners, for families to get involved. If you see, your daughter-in-law suffering this much, come over, help her, make food, take care of the kids. Don't leave someone who is saying that they are struggling, that they are having thoughts of harming themselves and their children alone with their children.
Absolutely. Great advice there. Let me go back to the trial for a minute. We've seen video of women dressed in pink gathering outside the courthouse to support Clancy. They've expressed their empathy without excusing what happened. Why do you think Clancy's story resonated with so many women?
I think so many women see the lack of health care that she got that happens to women every day. They're gaslit. They're told that they don't need the care, and they're denied the care that they need. And ultimately, I think this is underdiagnosed. This is under-researched. We need to know more information about how postpartum psychosis works. We have some treatments for it, but it could get better. And ultimately, I think every woman sees themselves in this system that didn't have enough support. A partner wasn't there all the time. Where was that village? I think motherhood in America is right now a huge struggle. And I think that's what the women in pink are there to say.
Last but not least, I know we kind of went over this already, but if you or someone out there is watching right now and they're struggling, clearly you've talked about the gaps in the way the healthcare system identifies and treats women struggling after childbirth. If you're that family member, what do we need to do to help?
I think it's still worth it to go to the ER, to present information, to say, I'm concerned about this. So go to your nearest emergency department if you do think there's something going on that's more serious, like psychosis, if someone is saying that they have thoughts of harming themselves or others. And certainly hotlines are something that you can try. But of course, here we see that they failed. I created an organization called Mavita Health because I think people deserve specialized care that's covered by their insurance. And it's specialized for women that go through all these very specific and different issues that aren't the same as general psychiatry. There's a uniqueness to what happens in the postpartum that really needs to address. And of course, Postpartum Support International has a lot of resources that help you find providers in your specific area that are specialized in women's mental health and postpartum mental health specifically.
Dr. Sarah Orrick, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for giving us a little insight into this. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Now to Decision 2026. D.C. Council member Janeese Lewis George told News 4 she will sign 2 executive orders on her first day as mayor, both aimed at President Trump's immigration policy and the Safe and Beautiful Task Force. Lewis George is the Democratic nominee for mayor, but she still needs to clear the general election. But in all likelihood, she will become D.C.'s next mayor. Today, she sat down with News 4's Mark Segraves for a one-on-one interview.
I'm going to ask you a question I know you've been asked a lot, and that is about President Trump.
Yeah.
And some of the remarks that he has made both leading up to the primary and since your election victory, calling you a communist, threatening to either federalize the police and or the city again.
Well, you had a mayor who's, I guess she's a communist. I mean, she says she's a socialist, but I guess she's a communist based on what she says. But I have not met her yet. I look forward to meeting her.
I've certainly been shocked by it, but I think for me, you don't get anything done by fearing Donald Trump. I think everybody knows that. And so I am looking forward to meeting with the president and having a productive relationship with the president and this administration. I've been pretty consistent that I will work with anyone to the benefit of DC residents, and I also will stand up to anyone, including the president, when it comes to protecting DC residents.
So it sounds like you have not spoken to the president.
Not yet, no.
Have you reached out to the White House? Have you had any contact, communication with the White House yet?
Yeah, our teams have communicated about meeting and when that meeting will take place.
You talked about day one, and one of the things during the campaign that you talked about day one is the relationship between the district government and the federal government when it comes to law enforcement.
That's right.
And so I want to kind of break this down into two parts. One, just immigration enforcement. Mm-hmm. Not specifically just ICE, but all federal immigration enforcement and the cooperation, including the executive order with MPD. How will that change on day one after you're sworn in?
Yeah, my plan is to probably on that Monday you will see, maybe I shouldn't tell you, probably on that Monday what you will see is my administration signing an executive order rescinding the participation with our law enforcement in federal immigration enforcement. So we know that it is still happening as of just days ago. And so you're going to see me take decisive action and getting our law enforcement back to doing what they are charged to do, which is keep our community safe.
And the second part is about just the Safe and Beautiful Task Force cooperation between MPD when it's not immigration enforcement, but when it's just ride-alongs and general law enforcement, both with the National Guard and with FBI and other law enforcement agencies, the park police and whatnot, where we see them they have been at roll calls, riding in the same vehicles, riding.
Yeah, just yesterday, my husband and I were riding up North Capitol Street, and it was just a routine. Obviously, I think the MPD officer was just making a routine stop. It looked like it was an traffic stop, and it was DEA, FBI, Homeland Security. It's just like, why do we need all this for a routine traffic stop? It's such a waste of American taxpayer dollars, what is happening. And again, it's a strain on our officers. And so my job as executive is to protect our officers as well. And so, yes, I am prepared to make an executive order to make sure that our officers do not have to participate in those type of efforts and can go back to participating in protecting DC residents.
So to be clear, day one, you'll sign an executive order that will end MPD's participation with the Safe and Beautiful Task Force.
I will in some of the actions that are included within that Safe and Beautiful Task Force.
Will they still be able to come to roll call? Will they still be riding in caravans that you witnessed yourself just yesterday?
No, that is what I would like not to happen.
And that was Mark Segraves reporting. Still to come tonight on the News 4 Rundown, a D.C. father was given just a year to live after his cancer stopped responding to treatment. The groundbreaking surgery that helped him become cancer-free. Doug?
Yeah, still trying in that severe thunderstorm warning right now for parts of Montgomery County, Howard County as well, and watching new showers and storms developing now farther to the south, even farther to the south here too. Could we see this line come together and hit the district? I'll talk about that. We'll see you back here in just a minute.
A D.C. father was told he didn't have long to live after he was diagnosed with advanced lung cancer. He was in a position where he could barely breathe, but now he's the picture of health and cancer-free, all thanks to a groundbreaking surgery. The research was just published in the top medical journal and could one day change the way we treat cancer patients. David Peterson was told he only had a year to live. The diagnosis? Stage 4 lung cancer.
I had a cough that wouldn't go away, and it was concerning. They did an x-ray and they saw a spot on my left lung.
That spot was a softball-sized tumor that had been growing on his lung for more than a decade. Peterson had surgery and started treatment, and things looked promising. But a year later, his cancer returned and it was more aggressive. That
put me in a round of chemo and immunotherapy, but it wasn't working. My cancer kept on growing and growing.
That's when he heard about the DREAM program at Northwestern Medicine in Chicago. with doctors trying a bold new approach to treat patients with lung cancer.
David was just like all of our patients. They were pretty much on deathbed. They've been told, go to hospice. They cannot breathe.
Dr. Anik Borat is the surgeon behind this procedure that's a first of its kind. Instead of treating the cancer in David's lungs, doctors removed both of his lungs and replaced them with healthy donor lungs.
Unlike the conventional way, where you take one lung out, put a new lung in, then take the second lung out, put a second lung in. What we said was we're going to take both the lungs out and wash the chest cavity, the central airways, to make sure there's nothing left, and then put new lungs in.
And the results of the study, published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, even surprised doctors. Of the 98 patients enrolled, 17 underwent a double lung transplant. The other 81 were treated with medical therapy alone. 1 year later, every transplant patient was still alive. Among those who did not receive a transplant, fewer than half survived.
We had no doubt it's going to work, but we were astonished to see how well it worked. All patients had pretty dramatic improvement in their survival. Many of these patients are living cancer-free now.
Now 60 years old, David has no signs of cancer in his body, and he's embracing life again, reconnecting with his work as a freelance photographer and spending time with his family.
Went to my daughter's college graduation, which I wouldn't have been available for if I didn't have this transplant. It has been obviously a second chance at life, and it's incredible.
According to the American Cancer Society, lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer death in the U.S. It claims more lives than colon, breast, and prostate cancers combined. And it's not just smokers. In fact, David's disease was driven by a gene mutation. He hopes sharing his story will give other patients facing advanced lung cancer another reason to keep fighting.
Cancer is not something you want to sort of hang out and take your time figuring out what you want to do. You have obviously fears, anxieties, and things like that, but you really have to push those aside and lean in and just do everything you can.
Indeed you do. By the way, Northwestern is still accepting patients for the DREAM program. In order to take part, David had to move to Chicago for a year. He's now back home on Capitol Hill and goes to a local hospital for his screenings. And again, there is no evidence of cancer. He also said he is thankful to the organ donor's family and hopes to one day meet them in person. Happening right now, parents in Prince George's County are speaking to school leaders about the ongoing transportation issues just 3 days into this new school year. When classes began earlier this week, 10,000 students had not been assigned to a bus route, believe it or not. These are live images from inside that building right there on your left. All of that led to traffic nightmares. Parents spent hours in long lines providing transportation on their own for their children. There are also ongoing issues with a new bus tracking app that was supposed to provide families with information about their child's bus. News 4's Dominic Moody is at that school board meeting tonight. He will join us with a full update tonight on News 4 at 11. All right, as we mentioned earlier, we are in weather alert mode. Doug Cameron is here now, talking a little bit more about the storms rolling through. Are they starting to build up closer to D.C.? Or?
Yeah, and in Montgomery County especially, and they're building down toward the south where they've been up to the north most of the afternoon. Let's show you what we did. Today was the hottest day of the week. 88 degrees, the high temperature in D.C. The heat index got into the low 90s, 90 in Leesburg, 89 in Warrenton. So, yes, it was a very warm day today and definitely on the humid side, too. Take a look at what's going on right there. Flip Plumpton, guys, for me if you can. Take a look at the resting camera right now. You can see the nice little hues. That you can see the sun off to the west here, reflecting off of the buildings here. But look at the storms off towards the north and west, if we can, up to the north, up towards parts of Frederick County right now. And that's where the storms are, right there in through parts of Frederick and Montgomery County, moving through central Montgomery County. No longer under any warnings currently, but we still have that severe thunderstorm watch in effect until 10. New showers and thunderstorms back to the west. And I'm watching this right here. Watch this little shower here. Okay, if you just follow this line, we're starting to see this line kind of spawn more showers and storms. So will that be the case over the next hour? And is that what's going to make it into the district as we move on through the next few hours? So let's go ahead and zoom on in, show you what's happening here over the last hour or so, going through Frederick, going through Mount Airy, around Damascus, now moving into Clarksburg and towards Gaithersburg, and new showers developing to the south around Leesburg, working their way towards Poolesville and Darnestown. So heads up for those. Now, as we widen back back to the west around areas like Hancock, and then right on down through Winchester here, down I-81. Still seeing some heavy rain around Paw Paw. Now in around Martinsburg, they still have the flash flood warning. That was in effect for the last couple of hours because of 3 to 5 inches of rain that fell around the Martinsburg areas. Trees down, big time hail in that area, even a house set on fire by lightning. There was a tremendous storm over Martinsburg a little bit earlier this afternoon. But those storms are moving off toward the east. You can see most of our area under a severe thunderstorm watch. That does include areas from D.C. all the way up towards parts of New York. So how about that as this frontal boundary works its way through? Now, as the front does continue to work its way down, notice this model has our storms in here around 10, 11 o'clock inside the D.C. metro area. So we have to watch out for the next 1 to 2 hours before this starts to really get out of here. As we work in through tomorrow, starting off with some sunshine during the afternoon, I think mostly sunny skies, and then maybe an isolated shower, maybe an isolated thunderstorm tomorrow, but most of us will see a pretty fantastic Friday. So let's time it out for you. Almost a fantastic Friday from everyone, but I do think for most of us it will be. Temperature starting off in the 70s, going into the mid-80s by the afternoon. I'm going for a high temperature in the upper 80s, so it will be a nice warm afternoon. Still a little bit on the humid side, but not terrible. 87 degrees on your Saturday. Once again, only about a 20-30% chance of storms. 90 on Sunday, 93 on Monday. That ends the month of August. Now, let's go to September. Look at this. 95, September 1. September 2, we're looking at 95 degrees. So some big-time heat to start the month of September. Heat index close to 100, and a good chance for showers and storms the middle of next week. Hopefully, that'll break some of the heat out there. But each of the next 10 days, I've got above average. Average is now falling down to 86. So, yeah, going to be a little bit on the warm side.
All right, we're preparing for it. Get a little heat wave there before we go into fall.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Doug.
Maybe the last one.
I hope so.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, there is plenty of excitement for the new NFL season to begin. We're going to talk about more of that when we come back. All right. People are fired up for this new NFL season to begin, but many Commanders fans are worried because the injuries are certainly hitting the burgundy and gold. So which positions have team insider JP Finley most concerned? Time for all ears to become all fears.
Now, you know this logo, All Ears with JP Finley. I still don't know how they came up with this name. Well, we're kind of replacing it from all ears to all fears. What am I talking about, you may wonder? Well, we've been kind of wondering, how concerned are we about some of these position groups and how severe the injuries have been? So all fears, ear index. Let's talk about the offensive line. How concerned are we? This is all the way up, folks. This is a 4-ear alarm. I can't stress this enough. The offensive line issues. First, you lose Laramie Tunsil. You could argue he's the best player on the team. The lingering issues at center make this a 4-alarm, 4-ear situation on the offensive line. I am prepared to calm myself down a little after roster cuts if they bring in some veterans with some real experience starting at center. What about the defensive line? Odafe Oweh and Kaylavon Chasen are not going to play against Baltimore. They didn't practice. We haven't gotten much information. Chasen dealing with a knee. Oweh dealing with a calf strain, the same injury that's impacting Nick Allegretti. I got to go 3 years here. Now, I do think this defensive line has a lot more depth, but remember, Johnny Newton likely out for the year with that torn pec. The D-line, they spent a lot of money to make this group better, but so far they're not on the field. What about the defensive backs? By and large, I've been pretty impressed with the defensive backs that are on the field. But this is a 2-ear for me because what is going on with Trey Amos? If somebody can answer that, please write me a letter. Send me a fax. I don't know. We can't get an answer on that. What is going on with Trey Amos? He was a projected starter and hasn't played since November and practiced for a day. And then the quarterback situation. Jaden Daniels looks great, has looked great throughout camp. You can even be excited about Ethan Kaliak-Manis if you want to. I think it's warranted. He's shown some real flashes. But what's up with Marcus Mariota? And can you really go into week 1 with Mariota dealing with the lingering effects from that knee sprain? This is, I don't know if we're ever going to do this again. The all ears, fear, ear index.
That's a lot. All right. Thank you, JP. That'll do it for the News 4 Rundown on this Thursday night. I hope you will join Doug, Jim, and me back here tonight for News 4 at 11. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you then.